Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? My name is Marc Gallagher, and for those who don't know me, I'm a ukulele player who's been playing for about 10 years or so. I've played in a bunch of different countries, and on my social media and on my channel, I like to do cover videos and collaboration videos where I duet covers with people in the uke scene and beyond. Outside of that, I also like to do general ukulele content, and one thing I'd like to do is talk about strings, namely the Tin Man's magic ukulele strings. This is the signature string model of Christopher Davis-Shannon, who's also known as @Banjalele Tin Man on Instagram, and the Tin Man Co. is like just part of his general branding. For those who don't know who Christopher Davis-Shannon is, he plays what he likes to describe as dance music for the old at heart. Often he does jazz tunes from the 20s through to the 50s. He has a wide array of covers, tutorials, and also he's got some great lessons on the fundamentals of music, which is something I really like seeing in a ukulele tutor, because often I find ukulele lessons can just be sort of play along based and too much like let's learn how to play Riptide. And I really like that with Christopher, he's really diving into the good stuff. But enough about him as a teacher and as an awesome person and stuff. But this is his line of signature ukulele strings. But why Mr. Tin Man, if that is even your real name? Why have you made your own brand of strings? Strings exist, right? Well, the reasoning's actually pretty simple. So I featured on Christopher's YouTube channel recently as part of his Checking In With series of interviews. And during the conversation off camera, we were discussing this new strings. And what he mentioned was when he plays sopranos, fluorocarbon soprano strings, he often is very dissatisfied at the floppy C. The C string's often very loose, and it was something that he sought to rectify. Now, when one can go down the route of making signature strings, there are two paths that one can follow. One is by just speaking to a string manufacturer directly, and they will have a set gauge and they just stick your name on it. And that was very much something that Christopher didn't want to do. He wanted to actively be involved in the process. So he went for the second option, which is he went to a fluorocarbon manufacturer directly, and he took so many samples of different string gauge thicknesses before he finally found a set that he was satisfied with, that sort of had this the tension and the brightness that he was looking for on his fluorocarbon ukulele sets. So in the spirit of being honest with you guys, I've not been paid for this, but my friend has sent me a free set of strings. I'm going to try and be as honest as I can, like I did with the Heavenly Strings review a few months ago. If it's crap, I think I'm going to say it's crap. But I understand that there's probably an inherent bias in that I've been sent some free strings by my friend. But there's no agreement. I've not been told to make a video on this. I'm doing it out of my own volition. I'm not being paid for this video. I've just been sent some strings and I want to show them off with you guys in real time. So I love the packaging of this. It's designed by Jake Smithies of Dead Man's Uke, who's illustrated for a lot of things in the uke scene. My EP Cartoon Physics is included in that. It's mentioned that this is sort of ideal for D and C tuning, so that's promising. I like that he sort of considered those elements in there. What's also promising about the packaging is just it's very paper-based. There's not a trace of plastic in sight, which is nice and sustainable and good for the environment. That's something I really like to see. It's all been packaged by hand by Christopher himself. Just opening it up, and God, this glue is strong. So yeah, not a trace of plastic in sight. Christopher's left a little color code on the packaging. There are little colored tabs on his strings which mention what they correspond to, and that's all nice and helpful and also quite sustainable and great. I'm going to be putting them on my Rob Collins soprano ukulele. I've had this ukulele since about 2017. You might recognize it from the cover of my album Songs from a Happy Winter. Absolutely love this soprano ukulele. However, in the 4 years that I've had it, I haven't restrung or changed the fluorocarbon strings on it, so it's very much in need of a restring, and I'm very grateful that Christopher sent me a new set of strings. So what I'm going to do is, this has got some fluorocarbons on it that were put on by Rob Collins at the time of when he built the instrument. I'm going to do a little playthrough, a little sound sample of what we have now to act as a control to compare the new strings to. We'll have a little go now. And for some finger picking. So now we've got a little sort of control, a little sense of what old, dead, 4-year-old fluorocarbon strings sound on it. I'm going to stop the video here, and then I'm going to come back once I have restrung my ukulele, and we'll see how we go from there. Okay, so I'm back now. I've just put the new strings on my ukulele. Before I get into playing this, I just want to mention a few things. Firstly, I was told by Christopher in a message earlier today that if I'm careful with how I cut my strings, then I can get a second set out of this. So, taking one string, and I'm just going to test it briefly. Take this string. This is the offcuts from my C string, I believe the red one is. So, stretches to my bridge, right up to the end of my headstock with a couple inches to spare. So yeah, that's wonderful. That's very Worth Brown of him. So if you do have a set of these, be careful with how you cut them, and you can get a second set out of them. 2 for the price of 1, save money, etc. That's really quite handy, that. I'm really chuffed with that. That's very considerate of you, Christopher. The one gripe I do have is, I mentioned these are marked by sort of these color-coded stickers, just to tell you what string is which. One of the markers had fallen off, so I had to use process of elimination to try and figure out what string was what, and so I didn't accidentally put the wrong strings on. So that's all fine. It's just the minor gripe. I don't know, maybe have a stronger sticker on that doesn't fall off in future or something, but otherwise fine. And I've given it a bit of a thrashing, but it's still likely to detune slightly, so do forgive me if I need to kind of stop and retune. In terms of the appearance of strings, it's fluorocarbon, they're all generally the same. However, on this set, these strings seem a little bit more red in hue compared to that of the previous set I had on. But I'm going to go on to the sound sample. I'm going to play the same pieces that I did earlier on in the video. Sounds like this. And for finger picking, going to do a little bit more playing through, but I'm quite liking what I'm hearing so far. I'm starting to hear some of that snap that I get from Christopher Davis-Shannon's Wunderkammer that he uses in a lot of his videos. Just a bit of a snap to it, and a lot of punchiness in terms of the tone. In terms of the feel, these are much softer than I thought they would be. He mentioned that he wanted to kind of renee the sort of the floppy C that you get on most fluorocarbon soprano sets. And I feel like here, it's kind of, he appears to have combated that by just sort of reducing the tension of everything else. I thought he would have picked just a C string that was a bit firmer, and these are softer than I was anticipating. I was thinking I was going to get something that was really high tension to kind of just really make the soprano just shout, but it's not what we've got here. It's very smooth. In terms of texture, it's nice. Feels fine, doesn't feel coarse, it feels just smooth, and as I'm strumming it's just sort of gliding along, which is not what I was expecting, but it's a pleasant surprise. In terms of the sound, I don't know what you guys think, but for me personally, it sounds very soft. It's not bright, it's not chirping, like the ultra high shouty belting elements, but it feels softer. It's instead of the uke shouting, it just feels like it's raising its voice slightly, and that's cool. Tonally, it's a different flavour than what I was expecting. Just there are those occasional moments of bite. It's actually really nice. I like this. If I was to think of it as a frequency spectrum, there's a bit of a roll-off around the 5-6 kilohertz range. It feels like there's that sort of a roll-off down. So you're not getting the ultra-high biting treble frequencies, but it's just nice. It's got that really lovely mid-range tone. The lovely mids around about 2-3 kilohertz that I'm getting. So sweet. I'm really impressed by these. Everything else just feels softer. He's brought everything down to match it, and it's counter to what I was expecting, but it's cool. There's one thing I want to try before we go, is I want to try this in D tuning, because it mentions it's for C and D tuning, and depending on what tuning you use, you can bring out different characteristics. So for shits and giggles, let's have a look at this in D tuning. So now I've just tuned it up to D tuning, that's A, D, F sharp, B. Gonna have a little playthrough and see what differences we notice in terms of like the tone and the characteristics of it. So with that playthrough in D, obviously the strings are tighter, there's more tension because I've tightened the strings. That's obvious, but in terms of like the way that the strings responded tonally, so much more bite to it. There's still that roll-off on the like the super top end. There's still that roll-off, but there's a bit more bite to it. And when I'm picking, it's got a bit more like of a sparkle to it, a bit more of a chime to it. And I understand I'm using a lot of like wishy-washy terms for it, and that's kind of how it usually is when you're describing the tone of something. But if I was to give my opinion on this, I think that the strings, they are very much better suited to detuning. And if you want like proper tension, proper bite, something that's working against you and not completely giving in to you. I feel like if you go for the C-tuned option, like I did earlier, it's much softer, it's easier on your fingers, they just kind of, lots of give to it and kind of just falls away with you. But if you want something that's like proper bitey, tuning it to detuning gives you that attack. So this has been really interesting, actually. So in conclusion, the Tin Man's Magic Ukulele Strings. I like the ethos behind it. I love the packaging and the design. I like that eco-friendliness element to it. The strings themselves, they feel nice and soft. They're not too attacky. They're not too bright and brittle, but they're really soft, and they lend itself to, I guess, dance music for the old at heart. Thank you so much to Christopher Davis-Shannon for sending me a set of these. If you are interested in getting your own set, then they're available for purchase. Search for Banjo Lady Tin Man on Instagram. He's also got his own website at thetinman.co. If you like my music and my content, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/MarcGallagherMusic, and you get access to various awards in return. Christopher is also on Patreon. I believe it's patreon.com/Christopher Davis-Shannon. Make sure you check out those. Failing that, I will leave some links in the description. Thank you very much to Christopher for sending me a set. Hopefully you guys like what you hear and you can support a fellow musician yourself. Until next time, my name is Marc Gallagher. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.